Welcome back, friends. Let me take you further into some more concepts related to product and product management. And you see, let us look at this as concept building exercise, because after this we would be moving into the management side of the product basically. We would be going into the application part, as I said. So, this is probably the last session on in the sequence of terminologies and classifications and concepts, and you would have noticed that you see terminologies are coming forward in terms of supporting us in developing our understanding about the concepts and the conceptual build up associated with product management. So, let us talk a bit about product classification schemes, because we have to categorize, how to look at our products basically. We have talked about forms, attributes, characters and characteristics, and you would see these terms coming back to us now. So, you see, classification of products is essential because of the different categories of products aiming at different target markets. And here again I would mention that line and that those 5 circles, all those things should be recalled when we are talking of aiming at different target markets. And because if you look at one product, then definitely those things come in front of us. Otherwise, if you have a differentiation in the products itself by a marketer or several kinds of products available by different marketers, then definitely so the different classifications are based on characteristics like, and this is again an evolving aspect, although these are some fundamental elements, but you can think of this to be segregated in different kinds of terminologies as per your convenience in due course of time, and there is lots of literature on that. So, tangibility and durability, wherein durable as compared to non-durable versus services also comes to fore. Then there is a use based classification, that is consumers and industrial usage. So, consumer usage and industrial usage. You see, product tangibility can be seen with reference to product being a physical good, whereas we cannot see the tangibility in services, for example. That is why they are termed as intangible. So, here the physical form differentiates the non-physical form. Although we have to look at services as products as well, although service management talks about services with a different kind of a perspective, but still we have seen in the definitional frame of the product, wherein experiences related to products and other aspects, ideas are also categorized as products and so on. And I have been continuously telling you that there is a strong overlap in our conceptual understanding of so many things. There cannot be a very strongly compartmentalized understanding on services versus products or so on, and but here literature demarcates them with reference to elaborating upon the concepts on one side. On the other side, application also demarcates these things to an extent, and then there is a convergence of the concepts when we look at them together. So, apart from intangibility, services as opposed to goods have 3 more distinct characteristics. Product is a separate entity, though it has personality, it speaks to you, it has persona. Services, they have the services element is related to inseparability. You see, inseparability of a service wherein production and consumption they are more or less they carry forward the element of inseparability. For example, the production of a trip on the train which cannot be separated from its consumption by the customer, sort of. So, the trip is sold as a product, it generates an experience, but it is related to being a service as such. it is served. Restaurants, for example, you have tangible products to eat there, and the rest of the experience which you gain in a restaurant is related to the service you get. It is not so complex, it is a matter of experience, compartmentalization or demarcation or categorization, whichever way you want to look at it. Heterogeneity of service, wherein same service may be may have differences from where the services are produced. For example, room service in a hotel is offered somewhat differently depending on the person providing service and so on. So that can also be an element. Perishability of a service, you see, services are not long lasting many a times. You may remember the service given to you by someone, but it has a particular life of its own in terms of the time. So, you see, for example, a free seat on a flight from Delhi to Mumbai cannot be added to the seats available on the next flight to the same destination, and it has gone. So, it is a product element, though it is a service. A particular service which includes, hot meals served on a flight can be discontinued, but you may remember that particular hot meal and the associated service. So, that is what I am trying to imply here, and you see, that is why we are taking these as concepts, classifications, so that when they come back to us in terms of decision making, we can think of these as strategic elements to be projected, propelled and so on. Durability. Depending upon their durability, products can be classified as durables and non-durables. You see, products that satisfy a certain need for a long period of time, for example, refrigerators nowadays, they do not serve the needs for a very, very long time. People do often change refrigerators, machine tools, etc. But still, refrigerator is a durable machine. Basically, it has a component of strength, durability. Now, you see, here it reminds me to tell you that many a times when we categorize products with their durability perspective, the time frame with reference to the original product, the initial product in terms of durability keeps on changing in due course of time with all the technological or material innovation associated, product choices associated with the customer usage and so on. Non-durables or fast moving consumer goods are products that satisfy a need once or in few uses, for example, processed eatables, personal care items, detergents, soaps and so on. So, they vanish in due course of time as product after their usage, and this is how you see this is a very natural categorization. This is very common. You would feel that why it is being emphasized upon so much, just because that when we look at this kind of a categorization, then whole lot of a perspective associated with reaching to the customer changes. Customer concentration, customer approach, all those elements they change actually, and that is what product management is all about. We must look at the classification, and then we must look into the strategy we would use to approach the customer. For example, if you are selling a non-durable good, then definitely however high price or low price it may be, but your approach would be different in terms of when you are marketing or presenting a durable good to the customer. Then as per the usage, you see, when you talk of product use, one of the most common and widely used classification of products is between consumer and industrial, consumer goods, industrial goods. And you see, a categorization in terms of marketing comes in when you talk of consumer goods. So, you say that it is business to consumer, B2C marketing, and when you talk of industrial goods, the categorization may come into B2B, because most of the time industrial goods are not purchased by individuals, they are purchased by the people who would use them for a different kind of a purpose, to produce something, to use as a part of something and so on. So, you see, consumer goods classification is related to consumer wherein consumer products are bought in order to satisfy personal and family needs and so on, as we all know. And you see, this classification is on the basis of shopping habits also. Again, because product has to be marketed, and it, a marketing perspective has to be associated with product management. So, shopping habits must be a reason to classify the products. When we say that these goods are convenience goods, shopping goods, specialty goods, many a times unsought goods also. So, we will see that, and I am not digressing towards, taking you towards what kinds of demands are there. In marketing management text, you would find different kinds of demands. So, you see, there you would find some resonance with the classification of the goods which we are referring here. Just go to that segment of, any marketing management book wherein demands are explained, and you would realize that, that can bear a resemblance with, or a connect with the discussion we are having here. Industrial products are bought from companies or organizations in order to be used as an input to produce other products, for example, raw materials for company use or sale to other companies. Classification in terms of the relative cost and the way they enter the production process can be, with respect to those goods being material and parts, capital items that is used as machinery to produce something, supplies and business services also. So, once you look at these, this kind of a classification perspective all around, immediately the thought which comes to your mind is, related to what you would say to the customer, what would you tell the customer, and that is where positioning perspective comes in. How would you create the image of, a product in the minds of the customer is also associated with the classification and the categorization of the goods which you are producing, or products which you are producing. Just before I go into the subsequent details of, what we have seen just now, just imagine that you are thinking in terms of, a soap which can be a consumer good, and that falls under the category of, let us say, a convenience good. Probably it is also a shopping good, but convenience is much a better thing. It is not so price sensitive, and you see here a target and a positioning perspective simultaneously is coming to you. This is the beauty of product management and marketing management actually, wherein you think of target, you have a product in mind, and you can generate a positioning perspective all around. And from the other side, you think of the product, you classify it, you create a perspective around it, and then you create a story, a tagline, a punchline, a statement around the product to tell to the customer. For example, and I am not talking of the feature based positioning, I am talking of the classification based positioning. So, that is, you see, what we are discussing at this moment, and that is why, it is a very important part of our understanding in terms of product. And later on you would realize that this is very useful for us to project a product or develop a product in terms of being a brand, because all these elements would emanate into something which is related to brand development. For example, when we would be referring, something like marketing program investment in brand development, actually brand value chain, and I would not distract you by talking about that at this moment. That is again a very interesting kind of a discussion later on, wherein several elements would be discussed, but these elements would actually traverse through our discussion there into, when we talk of that basically. And then you would realize that, a simple tennis ball also can be seen with the perspective of a brand. Does any name comes to your mind? There are several important, sporting goods companies who have been projecting themselves as brand, and we have been using those at large. And then comes in consumer goods classification. We have just talked about that. Now let me let me extend some aspects to it and elaborate it. You see, consumer goods classification, as we saw, first is related to a good being or a product being a convenience good. It is purchased frequently, obviously, we can see that immediately and with minimal effort. That is related to availability, distribution. But because we are categorizing that convenience, that good as a convenience good, we assure that it reaches to the large number of customers, because we have seen that good with respect to being, to its convenience actually. For example, staples purchased on regular basis, let us say ketchup, toothpaste, crackers, chips, wafers, soaps and salts, sugar, and you remember that portion of the departmental store wherein you purchase convenience goods? That is what we are referring to here. Then that can further traverse into again a characteristic and a trait of the consumer. You see, here we are talking of convenience, we are talking of frequency, we are talking of immediacy, we are talking of accessibility, and we are talking of impulse also. So, there are some impulse goods purchased without any planning or search effort, candy bars, snacks, chocolates. You see, again, do you remember the section of the departmental store wherein you are just moving out or you are entering in, and you find those goods wherein do not have to put up so much of energy in thinking whether you want those or no. And especially when you are moving out, you are just about to pay the bill, there you find these refrigerators wherein you find deep freezed products, you find vegetables, you find fruits, you find chocolates, you find several other things, toffees, and many a times at that particular moment you feel a pang of hunger, and there are some patties and samosas and those kind of and breads all around in that corner, and you just purchase because you now want to pay the bill, go to your car and start eating while driving. That is the perspective of impulse. So, here emergency goods purchased when need is urgent, umbrellas during a rainstorm and so on. So, there also you do not think twice, basically you need those, and then you see that is the categorization which actually helps us in positioning and marketing the products at the end of the day. And that is why classification and concepts are more important, because in today's competitive era we can't lose any chance to reach to the customer. Shopping goods. Now, those goods that consumers characteristically compare on such basis as suitability, quality, price and style. For example, furniture, clothing and appliances. Now, you see, again you look at your own behavior when you go to purchase, for example, a shirt. So, you not only compare a particular shirt you have in mind with the shirts which are being displayed there, you also have the other shop besides or other brand in your mind. You may just just go through those products which are being offered there, and then you leave the shop and go to the other shop, and then you may come back and purchase the same shirt which you were surfing through for the first time. Now, that is where that kind of a comparison, that kind of a perspective, suitability, quality, price and those kind of things, they are for us to understand. And you see, this categorization is hinting upon the fact that that actually is associated with the behavioral reflection of the consumer. So, this categorization actually directs our attention to how to address, or first to understand and then to classify and then to address the behavior of the consumer through communication, definitely. So, and for that you can think of an integrated marketing communication course. So, there you will find those elements. Now, there are elements of homogeneity and heterogeneity here. So, one, you see, when we talk of homogeneous shopping goods, those are similar in quality, but different enough in price to justify shopping comparisons. And heterogeneity shopping goods, they differ in product features and services that may be more important than price. So, that is how classification actually traverses. Now comes in specialty goods, specialty, special usage or special positioning, and potential of the product. So, that is all that comes together now, wherein premium is associated with that. You see, these type of goods have unique characteristics or brand identification for which enough buyers are willing to make a special purchasing effort. A unique watch, a specific model of a car, a special edition diaries or pens, shoes, special model of a shoe which in general would solve the similar purpose, but definitely it is highly priced and high premium shoe basically. So, there are several models available and so on, and that is why these are called as specialty goods. Then, and do not take it that you see it is just a general kind of a thing which is implied and everyone understands. We do understand these terms and these things, but here when I am talking about these, keep that in mind that the strategic perspective of understanding and reaching to the customer is associated with this classification from this side. So, if it is a specialty good, it would not be available everywhere. Then there would be a price perspective associated with that. Then that price has to be justified, and that is what we are going to talk about in whole of the product management all through. Then unsought goods, many a times consumer does not know about or normally think of buying. So, usually basically customer are aware, for example fire extinguishers, your mind does not go there because you never expect fire to be around you, but somehow we are becoming more aware, and there are norms and rules and regulations which are actually motivating us to put a fire extinguishers everywhere in every home or every building. But otherwise, if you will see that people they feel like that they don't have a sight of those products in their minds basically. So, many times there are specific health policies which you feel are important, but somehow you are not looking for those kind of policies, and especially at a specific age when health and life is with you. There is a time when for the first time blood pressure fluctuates, and one goes to a doctor and doctor says that you are taking stress, and that particular moment person feel like getting insured against ailments. So, that is a need based kind of a thing, but you see emergencies come from all the sides, and shouldn't we all be taking good care of ourselves by insuring ourselves also? So, we should, but again our sight does not go there. Now, then again there is a very important term which comes back to us when we talk of classification, that is called category. You see, product category is a particular group of related products as given by Cambridge Dictionary, wherein product categories are typically created by industry organizations or firms or brands to focus their promotional efforts effectively by grouping similar items together. Product categories are sometimes confused with product classification, which we have just talked about, And you see, both are organizational strategies or perspectives, and both help guide marketing decisions, but classifications are much broader. For example, convenience goods, shopping goods, specialty goods and so on. For example, Dove skin care, Dove personal care and beauty care, and Dove hair care, Dove fragrances, fast track men watches, fast track women watches and fast track universal watches. So, you see, that is where category comes into, wherein you have to tell about your products cumulatively to the customer, and looking at the limitation of the message, the size, the space, or let us say you want to go in one go to the customer with all the product offerings you have. So, you categorize those products, and that is why it should not be somehow mixed up with the understanding of classification. Then industrial goods, wherein materials and parts, goods that enter the manufacturer's product completely, they fall in two classes: raw materials, for example farm products like wheat, cotton, livestock. Then there are natural products, fish, crude petroleum, iron ore, and then there are manufactured materials and parts, component material for example. These are usually fabricated. For example, raw iron is made into steel, and yarn is woven into a cloth. Then manufactured material and parts, they are differentiated into component parts as well, wherein they enter the finished product with no further change in form. So, these are classifications of industrial goods, because here the purpose would differentiate the positioning and the negotiations and the further approach, and for this you can look for any industrial marketing course, and that will take you deeper into that basically. So it's a different kind of perspective which has to be built around, but I will be focusing upon these elements as well in due course of time. You see, examples of component parts are small motors, tires, castings, etc. and so on. Then comes in capital items, are long lasting goods that facilitate developing or managing the finished product. They fall in two groups: installations and equipment. And installation is related to that they consist of factories, offices, that is buildings, and heavy equipment. For example, generators, drill presses, mainframe computers and so on. So, you are looking at them as installations. You have to install those somewhere to be used for further being part of further processes and so on. Equipment, it includes portable factory equipment, tools and office equipment and so on, and these type of equipment do not become part of a finished product actually. So, there are we all know what equipment is, but again just to elaborate briefly in front of you, and you see again this is the categorization leads towards the marketing effort. Then there are supplies and business services. These are short term goods and services that facilitate developing or managing the finished product. Supplies are of two kinds: maintenance and repair items, paints, nails, brooms, and operating supplies, lubricants, coal, writing paper, pencils and so on. And business services include maintenance and repair services, that is window cleaning, copier repair. Business advisory services are legal, management consulting, advertising and so on. And maintenance and repair services are usually supplied under contract by small producers or from the manufacturers of the original equipment and so on. So, the categorization, as I said, would lead to the negotiations as well, to a mutual understanding of how the services would be served or how the products would be taken to the customer. Here comes the culmination. Ladies and gentlemen, after going through an emphasizing journey, emphasizing because we talked about the terms, terminology, classification, concepts, philosophy, with a particular emphasis on the usage of these elements in the decision making and product management in due course of time. So, here is the culmination wherein there are three aspects which you should remember. One is product acceptance. Customer must or should willingly accept what we have to offer, and that is the objective of every producer, manufacturer, marketer, product manager and so on. The other element is product strategy and planning. How to take the product through a due course of life while becoming the part of the life of a customer. And when I say life of a customer, it can be seen with the perspective of becoming the part of the lives of the customers generationally, and that is where product strategy and planning comes in. And both these elements, take us towards product management, and this is what this subject is all about. I will now be initiating a discussion in my subsequent sessions on product management at the core, and there we would have a wonderful mix of an understanding on strategic and application perspective in relation to product management decision making. So, keep thinking, keep learning. I will meet you next time. Till then, goodbye.